radiation as it comes out as decaying will make it basically change the chemical composition of the crystal in the near vicinity of that little lump of radioactive materials. Well, something like polonium, the half-life is seconds. It depends on which one, I know, but see, I'm not a geochronologist. Okay, very short. And melted rock erases any of this. It only happens when the things are solidified. So when we look in, and each element leaves a characteristic pattern of these rings, depending on what it breaks down into over time. And so when we look in a slab of granite, and there's a ring from polonium, which has a very short half-life, we scratch our heads and we say, that's not supposed to be there, because granite's supposed to take thousands of years to cool. And all the polonium would have been gone before it cooled. And yet, there's evidence that polonium was there after it cooled because it left a little spot. That's my best answer, and there's so much more to say, but it's not a lecture on radiometric dating and water transfer within rocks and things like that, and how to get the thing concentrated in a certain point. And ask him. Okay, sir.
That's evidence for young Earth.
I believe it's supporting evidence for young Earth. Sir.
You mentioned about sending your DNA off. I was wondering what kind of information you might get back. Is there a company that does a good job? Is it worth the cost? And should a person wait a little bit so they can refine it better?
If I thought it was worth the cost, I would have done it myself already. I want my entire mitochondrial genome sequenced, and I want my Y chromosome not fully sequenced, but at least enough of it so I know where it came from. Because I'm a genealogist and I want to know where those two lines originated in Europe. But it still costs a lot. I have some privacy issues also. There are several companies that do genetic genealogy where you send off a sample and they'll send you a nice report saying where you came from, and they might even say, "Oh, you're from the tribe of blank," which they made up. And
I think you just want to be tall and handsome.
yeah, I think so too. Yes. The old steroids look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. So it's cost effective for some people, not for me on my budget currently. For a couple $100, you can know. But I'm not convinced that I want those samples destroyed. They'll say, "Oh, we'll save the sample, and the next time when you do the next test, which costs a little bit more money, we don't have to charge you that sample cost again." But no, I want them to destroy the sample. I don't want my genetics in some laboratory somewhere for all time. So was that your question?
Yep.
Okay.
Will you summarize for us what the evidence against the out-of-Africa theory is, please?
Can I summarize what the evidence against the out-of-Africa theory is? Okay, 1, there's not a lot of genetic diversity amongst people. 2, it's the Y chromosomes that are geographically specific, and the mitochondrial DNA that's spread out all over the place. So let me ask you a question. Who moves around more in history, men or women? Who goes off to war? Who pillages? Who are the traders on trade routes? Who's rumored to have a woman in every port? Not women. They stay home. Why is it then that the Y chromosomes have stayed home in history and the mitochondrial DNA have been shuffled around in history? It's because of the Tower of Babel. It's the opposite of what evolutionary theory predicted. When they discovered this, they came up with all these ad hoc explanations. Oh, well, men tend to have children with more women than women have children with men, therefore the standard deviation of the men, but it doesn't, even despite all the work, it doesn't, they can't get the numbers to line up well. Since colonial times, things are different. There are a lot of examples that I can think of a native population that has a high fraction or a complete fraction of European Y chromosomes. No native Y chromosomes, but all the mitochondrial DNA are native. All over South and Central America, it's like that. There's a place in Norway that's like that. I mean, in Greenland that's like that. A lot of Norwegian Y chromosomes. No Norwegian mitochondrial DNA. There's been a one-way interaction from men of Europe during colonial times outward into their colonies, which is what we would predict. But when you look before colonial times, what we find is the opposite. Y chromosomes, you can peg it. You say, oh, that Y chromosome, you can sequence it. He's from that point. You know, where on the earth that guy's from. That's crazy. Think of all the wars and migrations and interactions of people and fluxes and changes, and yet, despite all that, the evidence is still there that the Tower of Babel event is an accurate reflection of world history. Okay, more evidence, more summary. I was supposed to summarize. I'm getting off on a little rabbit trail here. Summarize the Out of Africa event. There's just about as much genetic diversity in the Middle East as there in Africa. There's not much of a reason to think that Africa is the starting point. There's, I don't know. There's so much to say, it's hard to know exactly what to say. That's a very good question, though. I tell you what, I'm going to try to work on a 5-minute list of bullet points. I don't have it at the moment, but I should. I should have a boom, 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 boom. Here's the evidence as why. Okay, way in the back.
The Ice Age in a $6,000 time or year time frame, where does an Ice Age fit?
Actually, we've got a great model for the Ice Age that the evolutionist doesn't have. The best thing they can say is that, oh, a little bit of orbital